Shall we start? Yasmat jatam jagat sarvam yasmin yeva praliyate yenetam dharyate chaiva tasmai jnanatmane namaha Ishvaro gururatmeti murti bheda vibhagine vyomavad vyapta dehaya dakshinamurtaye namaha Taittiriya mayacharya prasadataha vispashtartha ruchinam hi vyakyeyam sampraniyate Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvisha vahai Om Shanti 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 Om Na kanchana vasatau pratyachakshita tadvratam tasmad yaya kaya cha vidaya bahvannam prapnuyat aradyasma annamitya chakshate yetadvai mukato onnagum radham mukatosma annagum radyate Yetadvai madhyato onnagum radham madhyatosma annagum radyate Yetadva antato onnagum radham antatosma annagum radyate Ya evam veda kshema iti vachi Yogakshema iti prana panayoh karmeti hastayoh gatiriti padayoh vimuktiriti payo iti manushi samajñah ata devi triptiriti vrishto balamiti vidyuti yasha iti pasushu jyotiriti nakshatreshu Prajatiramrtamananda ityupaste sarvamitya kashe tat pratishte ityupasita pratishthavan bhavati tanmaha ityupasita mahan bhavati tanmana ityupasita manavan bhavati Tannama ityupasita namyante esmai kamaha tad brahmetyupasita brahmavan bhavati tad brahmana parimara ityupasita paryenam riyante dvishantas sapatnaha parye priya abratruvyaha. This is a very long piece, so let me recite all of them before we start looking at it. Sayaschayam purushe yascha savaditye sayekaha saya evam vit asmal lokat pretya etamannamayam upasankramya etam pranamayam upasankramya etam manomayam upasankramya Yetam vijnanamayam upasankramya Yetam anandamayam upasankramya Iman lokan kamani kamarupyanu sancharan Yetat samagayan aste ha uha uha Ahamannam, 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 ahamannado, hohamannado, hohamannadaha, ahagishlo, kakrit, ahagishlo, kakrit, ahagishlo, kakrit, ahamasmi pratamajaruta, sya, purvam devebhyo mritasya na, bhai, yoma dadati saidevama, vaha, ahamannamannamadantamā dmi aham vishvam bhuvanamabhyabhavam suvarnajyoti ihi ya evam veda ityupanishad. This is a cry of ecstasy at the end of the Upanishad. This is how the Upanishad ends actually. It's the last section in Taittiriya Upanishad. It's a very long piece. The 10th anuvaka is long. I thought let me recite the whole thing in one shot. You may have to take it in pieces. Huh? Okay. So before we get into the discussion, let me give a little bit of preamble. We seem to be having a little bit of interruptions in the last 1 month. I think you have cancelled more classes than having classes, I think. I've been traveling too much. Anyway, so we have come to the last anuvaka of the last chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad, which is Brguvalli. And which is also happens to be the last section in the Upanishad. So we are now at the edge of the discussion. Now if you just recollect, the first 6 anuvakas was this discussion between the father and the son. Bhargavi, Varuni, Vidya. Bhrgu and Varuna had a discussion, and how beautifully, Varuna never gave an answer for Bhrgu. He said, go and find out. And that's the charm of Indian tradition. Answers are not given. Answers given never stays. Answers searched stays much longer. But there is a way, this Varuna very intelligently told every time when Bhrgu came, he said something and sent him back. So there was this self-inquiry which happened. First 6 sections was how to know this Brahman. That was the discussion. Then we saw the next 3 anuvakas, 7, 8 and 9. Some beautiful discussions on Annam. Annam is not food. Food is a very simple definition, translation for Annam. Annam, as we saw, is a much larger principle which talks about quite a bit of interesting things. So there are 3 very powerful statements. Annam na nindyat, don't blaspheme food. Food not in the narrow sense. Then tad vratam, take that as vow. Then annam na parichakshita, don't deny or keep away from food. The larger meaning of the tad vratam. Then it said annam bahukurvita, increase. Don't just leave it like that. So those 3 nice discussions around that we saw as to what this Upanishad is actually telling us, which are all very, very relevant for today's discussion. We had all those discussions. And it also introduced this Anna and Annada, Pratishta and Pratishtita. How this world of mutual dependence, how this world is so intricately dependent on one another. That concept came so beautifully in those 3 anuvakas. So now we are moving to the last anuvaka. I recited the very long piece because it's rather long. So I recited in one go the entire thing. Now there are some interesting messages in the last section of Brguvalli. The first thing, the first message it leaves is what I may call it as Atiti Satkara. Atiti Devo Bhava is a logo in tourism. Indian tourism now uses Atiti Devo Bhava. But this Upanishad actually talks about it, and there is actually a sense of time in that discussion also. I will talk about it when we get into the discussion. It talks about why is it important to understand that we need to be very reverential to Atitis. So, see, Upanishads and Vedas are not bunch of ideas for somebody to sit in a forest and then while away time. I think they are all very, very important pieces for living, for bringing it into, that's why, many of these ideas are there. So it says it's extremely important to, have a certain reverential attitude towards Atiti. And then it talks about the Mahatmya, the greatness of Annadana. This culture has phenomenal, this country and this culture has phenomenal position on Dana in general and particularly Annadana. So, because it's a passing out student. Remember, the first section of Taittiriya Upanishad was a convocation address. So, understand that a person who is passing out has to be told certain things. He is out of the studenthood and he wants to make a living. So, that's why this Upanishad is going all over the place and giving them a whole lot of ideas. So, it talks about Annadana. That idea also comes. Then it talks a very interesting idea, since there is so much of discussion about Brahman, which is the central piece in the Veda. It also talks about how do you recognize. And a subtle message I find is Brahman, if you say Brahman is in some remote place, Brahman is in a far off place, I think we'll all have to walk out. It's not at all interesting. If you say Brahman is several light years away, God is somewhere else, sitting in, as they show in movies. It's all cloudy and then the cloud clears a little bit and then, in a fancy bed that's all, graphics. If you think God is elsewhere, then you and I have no hope. So the Upanishad in this section actually does something very interesting. It says, learn to see God around. So that nice things are coming in this 10th anuvaka. And then it finally gets into Brahmananda Anubhava. There is so much of discussion that has happened in Taittiriya Upanishad. So it is only logical that the student who fruitfully and faithfully went through this must have that experience. So that is where he cries in ecstasy. That's what the last piece is. The Samagana. He just, bursts into ecstasy. And then the Upanishad closes with that kind of a nice sort of a recitation. So that is how this song of ecstasy with which the Taittiriya Upanishad closes down. Now, which we will see now, the 10th Anuvaka. But I was thinking, what is being told in 10th Anuvaka, in sum and substance, for all the discussions about Brahma Vidya? The second chapter was so grand. Brahmavita apnoti param. Brahmavit apnoti param. In one sentence, one half a sentence, the whole teaching was over. A person who realized, understood Brahman, finished. Everything is over. This whole Upanishad was all rattling around trying to sort of make sense of that half a sentence. Entire Taittiriya Upanishad is condensed in that Brahmavit apnoti param. So with all this discussion, what is the last section trying to do? This was a thought in my mind. For all the discussion that has happened, what is the epilogue it is writing? So I found two messages, and they are very interesting messages. The first message is Brahman is to be realized now and here, not in a very remote place as a conceptual idea. Well, if that is what it is, it's not at all interesting. So the Upanishad says it's not a concept. It is not a fancy idea. It is a matter of realization. Now and here. So it is showing a few upasanas for that. That's what is happening in the 10th. And Brahman is realized by seeing it everywhere. I am reminded of chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita. The charm of chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita is the power of manifestation. I always say this. For one silly product, you have so much of R&D going there, so many people breaking their head, and then put an IPO and then hide it, protect it somewhere and keep it and create a market for it. These 6 billion creatures in this world, this world of Nama and Rupa, this world of multiplicity, who created it? Such a wonderful creation. Man can only recreate, man cannot create anything. All your R&D and your innovation are all recreation. Tell me one thing man created. Nothing. You can recreate with what is given to us. So that is the power of divinity. That power of divinity must be manifesting powerfully. I am talking logic. I am simply saying, if you can have so much ego that you created an apple and you created a product and so on, I don't know how much ego this divinity must have. It created the world of possibilities. It created wonderful things in this world. So ego is one part of it, but I am humble to say, it must be all powerful. It should manifest so powerfully. That is what the Upanishad is reminding. That is what Bhagavad Gita's chapter 10 is reminding. That's why it is called Vibhuti Yoga. See, Bhuti. Bhuti means what? Bhuti comes from the Sanskrit dhatu bhu. Bhu means sattayam, existence. Bhu means bhavati. The verb is bhavati, is there. He is there, she is there. We have to say in English. In Sanskrit we have to say bhavati. It comes from the root bhu. So bhuti is the power of manifestation, the power of existence. That's what Krishna did in chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita. He said, look at me in the whole world. Why are you looking at all over the place? He took 72 items and then said, look at here. If you can't look at here, the God, you will never see God. You can do anything that you want. You will not. So somewhere this Upanishad is also towards them coming to it in a way which is so characteristic to Sruti. Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti, not Shruti. This is a Shruti. So the methodology adopted is very different because it is much older. That's why it does the same thing in a slightly different way. All these are part of this last section, which we will see. So we will start from here. Na kanchana vasatau pratyachakshita tadvratam. So the Shruti says, I will tell you one more. Annam na nindya tadvratam. Annam na parichakshita tadvratam. Annam bahukurvita tadvratam. Now it says one more. It says na kanchana vasatau pratyachakshita. Na kanchana, for anyone. Kanchana is anyone. Na, don't. What? Prati achakshita is seeing. Prati achakshita is turning the eye away. Chakshita is seeing. Prati achakshita is turning the eye away. In other words, don't say no. For somebody who wants to stay with you. I mean, that's how it introduces the concept of Atiti in a different way. It says, na kanchana vasato, somebody who wants a place, but understand there is a time element to this. See, in this country, there are two things which we never wanted to do. We will never sell food. We will never. That was our Samskriti. Food should never be sold. Knowledge should never be sold. See, in Gurukula there is no fee. We have put a hefty fee for everything here. Our culture was food. Vidya dana and Anna dana is dana. Don't charge. That's why in the same Taittiriya Upanishad, if you remember, in the first Sikshavalli, what did it said? It said, Acharyaya priya danam ahritya prajatantum ma vyavachetsi. It says, you finished your instruction. The Acharya will never ask money. He won't. In fact, the model is a corpus model. What Harvard Business School Harvard University is practicing now. You know what was the model of education? Wealthy people and the king will endow money in a patashala and take their hands off. That is, in today's term, if we have to use, that is called corpus. You leave the corpus so that I don't have to worry about my day-to-day expenses. Today we are all struggling. That's why we are charging fee and all that. That's why Taittiriya Upanishad said, you finished your education, you are not charged, you are given free boarding, you are given free lodging, you are given free food, everything, you are given education. This is our mechanism. So it said, when you have passed out, you got a job, now you have an ability to pay. Then it says, it never specified an amount. It said, Acharyaya priya danam. Find out what the teacher wants, give that. Don't give, it's not a fixed fee. Acharyaya priya danam ahritya, having given that, prajatantum ma vyavachetsi, don't cut this lineage of offsprings. It said like that. So, we never had the culture of charging for food. Food should not be sold. Education should not be sold. So, related to that is, that's why in this country there was no concept of hotels. That was also, probably a few hundred years or whatever. So, which means a person who travels You have with extended hands, that is the Atiti Devo Bhava is coming. That is the time dimension. We today better be careful. Because we also moved with time. So but understand the spirit of what it is saying.
So even today this Dharmashalas
No, so I'll come to it. So today I will come to it a little bit because these are all still intact in villages. So I'll come to it. Certainly I agree with you. But by and large the modern mechanisms have put a different dimension. But what it is saying is na kanchana vasato pratyachakshita. If a person comes as a guest, don't turn him away. Tad vratam, take that as a vow. Because that still belongs to the world of mutual dependence and sustainability in some ways. See, today's sustainability talks only about environmental sustainability and financial sustainability. Our ancient Indian wisdom, if you read, it doesn't talk about these two sustainability. You know what it talks about? It talks about social sustainability. Today we are not talking about social sustainability. If the haves and have-nots go farther and farther away, there will be a civil war. Its score will be settled. You will not be surprised. In fact, our order of sustainability was social sustainability, followed by environmental sustainability, then financial sustainability will be guaranteed. This is our perspective. Today we go the other way. We first say that we will talk about financial sustainability. Then if you are ripping off the nature, then you say that let us do a product take back, we will do this, we will do that, and then bring social sustainability is still not talked about in a big way. So these are all part of that. It is a mutual dependence on a social system. So na kanchana vasato pratyachakshita tadvratam tasmat, therefore, now that you need to have this enabling mechanism of Atiti Devo Bhava, and the worst thing that can happen is you say somebody please come in, ask him to sit here and have your food in the other room. That's not going to work. That's even bad. That's why it automatically says tasmat yaya kayacha, somehow don't understand it by hook or crook. I come to it a little later. That's not how it is to be interpreted. Okay? Yaya kayacha bahvannam prapnuyat. Multiply the food because that is essential part of your atiti. So the annadana is part of a larger principle of taking care of the larger social system. That is what it says. Yaya kaya cha, somehow cha bahu annam prapniyat. Multiply the food because that's very, very important. It is at the core, food security and all that people are talking. That's what it is saying. Food security is at the base of social sustainability. We need to worry about that, and it should be institutionalized at a family level. Family is a unit of institution for us. That's why it says that tasmat yaya kaya cha vidaya. By somehow meaning understand this is an essential element of your living, that you have enough food to say I can reverentially treat people, I can create food security as part of the system, feed people. In fact, villages you go, you'll see it even today working perfectly. Perfectly it works. One jatre, one festival that happens in the village, you will see the best of Indian culture there. If you have not, please go and see. And it is so wonderful. It has nothing to do with your economic well-being. The wealthiest person may put the biggest food stall and make sure that everybody. It doesn't mean that a person who is low, he will put a small sort of this thing in which his quality of the buttermilk may be very thin, but that doesn't matter. Look at the spirit. He will have a small pot of buttermilk which he will share. I remember as a child in my village when we were pulling the Rath, the car festival. Do you know what people do? If the whole village knows what to contribute. If people cannot contribute anything, you know what they will do? They will bring a bucket of water and splash water on our face. That is a shanti you need when you pull. It's our festival is in April. In Tamil Nadu it is very hottest. So what can that man do? That small farmer do? He will bring a bucket of water, pour water on our face. Shramadana he is doing. I get rejuvenated and I will pull. This is the spirit of this country. Dhanam is the spirit of our country. Each person knows what to do. And that's why in villages they will have, I don't know whether you have seen, there will be a stone. There will be simply a stone. You know why they leave the stone? If somebody is carrying a weight, they want them to keep it there for 10 minutes and then rest and then go. And there will be a little bit of water there. This is the spirit of this country. That is what it is talking about. It is saying this is an element of social sustainability and mutual dependence and all that. So yaya kaya cha vidaya means do what you can. That is what it is. Aradhyasma annamitya aradhi asmai. Food is available. You should be able to say, don't worry, food is available. We will serve you food. And in villages a wonderful mechanism. I will relate my childhood stories. In our village, the way we do it is, in our street, there are about 120 houses. All that we do is, every house, every day we take this much rice. Can be a smaller hand, that's okay. A handful of rice. We have a small, patra, in which we keep the rice. And once in a week or something, there is one house in which we will go and deposit. Some people give rice, some people may give dal or whatever. In that house, we have numbered tokens. Maybe we can serve 40 food collectively. So there are 40 numbered tokens. They are available. He is Dharmakarta. That's a word if you like it. He is a Dharmakarta. 40 numbered tokens are there. And what will happen? If any stranger comes into the village, we say, have you had food? Today also we ask. This is our culture. That's what it is saying. Did you have food? No sir, is there a hotel? No. Go to that house. And just say, go and knock the door. Knock the door, they know he is a stranger. In village you know he is a stranger. As long as there are 40 tokens are there, the tokens are given. And they are also told, there is a 10th building house there. It's a small chowdhury. Go and give the token, you will get your food. There is an arrangement for cooking for 40 people. This is called Tasmat Yaya Kayacha Vidaya Bhakvannam Prapniyat. And Aradhyasma Annamitya Chaksha. Food is there, don't worry. This is our culture. That we believe that is a core of sustainability. It's not just I'll have food, put it in the fridge. Fridge has actually made sure that we eat a lot of old food again and again and again and again. This is the greatest contribution of this. There is one idiot box and one health box, according to me. TV I call it as idiot box, and this fridge I call it as health box. These two are the real villains for your health. One attacks from the physical side, another attacks from the medical side. That's how it is. But anyway, that is on the lighter side. But the point is that we had such systems. Katha Upanishad. It's one of the wonderful Upanishads. Beautiful Upanishad. In Katha Upanishad, the story is, initial part of the story is there is this person who is doing a sacrifice, and again in our culture, sakama if you do something with desire you have to do, all rules will apply brutalessly for you. If an yajna has to be done in a particular way, you cannot afford to deviate a minuscule. Our Vedic wisdom says, if you do nishkamya, all errors are absolved. First of all, there is no looking at the errors. That's also true now, no? If you say, sir, I am running an NGO, I am working for the cause of others, will you give me some help? Do you have 1 hour to discuss? I will say, I have 1 hour to discuss. The moment you say, I run a profit making company, I want to discuss, I am busy, come next week.
Here is my price.
Because, here is my fee for that. It's like that. Right? So that is the kind of thing. So this person is doing this yajna, his father, but this fellow is very calculative. So he is very calculative. So when he gives godana, yajna says if you want a benefit, these are the things to be done. But he talked about the quantity, but the quality is a bhava. So this fellow gives, so his son is looking at the whole thing. This is how the Katha Upanishad starts. Son is looking at all these and he says, what is going on here? He says it's not good. So he got so annoyed. He goes to his father and says, who am I going? Because he sees he is giving a very old, cow and all that. This fellow sees through the game. So he says, whom am I going to give? He was, disturbing his father again and again. His father got annoyed. He said, I'll give you to Yama. See, in anger you can say whatever you want to say. So I am going to give you to Yama. But this boy says, you are doing a sakamya yajna. So whatever you said, if you don't do, your yajna will have no value. So he goes to Yama. This is how the story starts. Yama is on his outing, maybe for his prized catch or whatever, I do not know. Yama is not there for 3 days. He comes back. And this boy didn't have food for 3 days. He is just waiting. These are all the story. At that time, Yama makes a statement because that is relevant to this. So I will bring that. At that time, Yama says something. So what does he say? He says, Asha pratikshe sangatam sanrutam cheshta purte putra pashumscha sarvan yetad vrinte purushasyalpamedaso yasyanashnan vasati brahmano grihe. I'll split, moment I split it is obvious, don't worry. Asha, desires. Pratiksha, waiting, I am waiting for something, expectations. That's called pratiksha. Pratiksha, sangatam, good company. The good company. Okay? So anrutam, so nice things. Satsanga, all these things. Cha, also. Ishta and Purta. Every one of us are supposed to do what is called Ishta and Purta. Ishta are all for the Vedic ritual. Purta is social service. Who said this country doesn't have CSR? This country has put CSR at the highest level if you read our Vedic text. It's called Ishta Purta. Ishta is Vedic rights. Purta is you have to build a hospital, you have to build roads, you have to made roads, dig wells, help the poor. They are all called Purta. It's a technical word for it, Purta. So Ishta and Purta. Then what? Putra, your children. Pashu. See, Pashu is used because at that time economic wealth is actually cattle, not the kind of things that we have now. That time it is agrarian economy. So cattle is always an index for wealth. Pashumscha, Sarvan, all these. Sarvan, all these. Etat, Vrinte, will get destroyed. So he puts a long list in the first line. These, all these will get destroyed. Etad vrinte, this will go. When? Purushasya, that Purusha. And who is he? Asya Purushasya, Alpa Meda, his Medas is Alpa. He doesn't think his father was like that. He is an idiot. He thinks he will smartly solve the problem. Alpa Medas. His Meda is not great, it is Alpa. Alpa Medasaha, it's an adjective for that Purusha. Alpa Medasaha, yeah.
What is the exact meaning of Alpa?
Alpa is less. So his brain is less, meaning cauliflower is there, it is not working. Because the cauliflower is the same for all. You preserve it in the cupboard. Sort of. Alpa is less, actually. Alpa Medasa, Yasya, that Purushasya. So it is describing of a person whose everything will be destroyed. And what is that person? That person, what is he doing? Anashnan. Ashna is eating. Anashna is not eating. Anashnan vasati brahmanaha grihe. In tasya purushasya grihe, in his house, grihe is at the end. In his house there is a atiti who is not given food. So Yama is saying, I don't want this trouble here. You are here for 3 days. You haven't had food. That's not correct. Food has to be given. Food is central to, see, you give food, people will bless you here. Our ladies know it so well. Food will bless you. Even if you don't have give. That is a culture. You give food, people will bless you. That is that momentary ecstasy every one of us enjoy. Na? So here, this is the preamble when Yama returned. These are all stories. The real thing starts after that. These are all stories. You can even delete all the stories. Wonderful discussions happen after that. But since I brought it, because that is why it says, say please, food is ready. I have seen in people with Samskriti, doesn't matter what do I earn, it doesn't matter how much food I have, they will serve food. See, when I was a student in IIT, 30 years back, what we do in IIT Madras is, we will go to the backside of IIT, there is a village. Now it is well developed. What we will do, 2, 3 of us, we will go and we will actually get those kids there, take them to a temple. There used to be a temple there. We will teach them maths and English. This is all we will do. We will teach them maths and English. Little bit of toilet discipline and all that we will teach. I will tell you, initially they were not coming. On seeing us, they will run away. But slowly they started coming. And see, I was in IIT for 7 years. So, this is a long experience I am talking. But I tell you, my heart used to melt. You know what will happen? What started by a fear of running away, after very poor people, yes, sort of slum kind of place. What used to melt us is, these fellows will say, sir, will you have Bonita or Horlicks? I don't think they can eat. But they will not let us go. We would say, no, they will not leave. That's our Samskriti. Food is there, please take it. We must, practice. That's what this Upanishad is saying. And there lies the social net. There lies the safety net. See, God has been kind to me, I have no dearth of food here. That doesn't mean this problem is solved. I should be able to create a system in which the safety net is created. That is what it is saying. So it's not a fancy idea. It is saying, how do you create social sustainability? Na kanchana vasato pratyachakshita tadvratam yaya kaya chavadaya bhakvannam prapniyat. Get the safety net into the society. You have done a great job to the society. Social sustainability at the end of the day. So Annadana is, there are so many references for Annadana. Chanakya Niti, I will take a couple of them. All these are talked about. Look at what it says. Janita cha, upaneta cha, janita cha, upaneta cha, yastu vidyam prayachati, annadata, bayatrata, panchaite pitaraha smritaha. Chanakya says 5 people are fatherly, equivalent to father. He says the biological father, which is Janita. The biological father is the father. Upaneta. There are two ways. One is you are done Upanayana, that is one method, one understanding. But there is a larger understanding. Upaneta is you are taken closer to divinity. A person who showed the hands and take you closer to divinity is a father, he is equivalent of a father. Upaneta cha. Yastu vidyam prayachati. The person who gave you knowledge is your father. And then what it says? Annadata. A person who gave you food is your father. Bayatrata, a person who removed fear from you is father. Chanakya is saying. So Annadata is part of it. That is how we understood the importance of giving food. I tell you, if only we go back to it, we solve a lot of safety net problems in many ways actually. Then look at in Chanakya Niti, one more shloka. Nanodakam samam dhanam na titir dvadashi sama na gayatriyaha paro mantraha na matur daivatam param. So beautiful shloka. He says udakam is water. Okay? Annam and udakam. He says no dhanam can be equivalent to giving food and water. That's what Chanakya is saying. Na anna udakam dhanam samam. There is no dana which is equivalent to giving water and food to somebody. That's why that sense of satisfaction when you give food and water is something which we all know. Then he says, Na titir dvadashi sama. The day after you fast makes you in a very... Try to fast for a day, you will actually reflect a lot of things in life. See, at least people in this room, God has been kind, you don't have to have hunger in your life at all. Try to understand what is hunger. You will understand something else in life. That's what that Upavas is of Ekadashi. That's why he uses the word Dvadashi there, actually. Na Gayatriyaha paro mantraha. He says there is no mantra which is greater than Gayatri. And he says, Na matuhu daivatam param. There is no God better than mother. This is what Chanakya says. In that also he talks about Udakam and Annam. That's what he is talking about. This is another beautiful shloka. Look at this shloka. I have hundreds of them. I don't want to go on reeling, but I want to tell you that what this Upanishad is saying is integral to our thinking in our Samskriti. Not in modern thinking, but in our Samskriti. Look at what it says. Gaja Turaga Sahasram Gokulam Kotidanam. Gaja is elephant, Turaga is horse. Okay? You give 1,000 elephants here. You give 1,000 horses. You give Gokulam, which is a cow shed with a few cows. All these are measures of wealth at that time. That's why these shlokas are coming like that. This is a measure of wealth. That's why in Bhrguvalli Upanishad, King Janaka said, whoever answers my question, 10,000 cows. And Yajnavalkya says all these fellows are battling. Yajnavalkya comes in and tells his Shishya, take the cow and go. So all these so-called learned people are all very agitated. He said, what do you mean? He has even answered, asked questions, you haven't even answered, and you are taking all the cows, you are going. So Yajnavalkya, in his smartness and humility, he says, I don't know about the question. I need the 10,000 cows. That is why I am taking. And he is one of the greatest thinker. Whole Bhrguvalli Upanishad is a beautiful conversation by Yajnavalkya. They are also cow. What I am saying, these are all the indices of prosperity at that time. So they are being used. Kanaka Rajata Patram, give vessels of gold and silver. Medini Sagarantam, you donate land up to the edge of the sea. Medini Sagarantam, Ubaya Kula Vishuddham, Koti Kanya Pradhanam, you give a Kanika Dana through marriage and which will purify both the clans. Even you give Koti of them. He says, Nahi Nahi Bahudanam, Annadanam Samanam. All these will not match with your ability to actually give food. Plenty like this. I just picked up a few of them. This is what is the injunction given by the Sruti in that anuvaka. Then it says, Yetadvai mukato onnagum radham mukato sma annagum radhyate Yetadvai madhyato onnagum radham madhyato sma annagum radhyate Yetadva antato onnagum radham antato sma annagum radhyate. He says, how do you give food? Let's now talk about it. That's the next thing it goes. One is to say, let's share. No, there are ways to share. It can be, with a lot of reverence. It can be with a lot of feeling that I want to share. That is mukataha annam radham. It's that nice way of doing it. He says, the Shruti says, if you are able to do it that way, it will come back to you like that. Mukataha, in the superior way, if you are able to offer, in the superior way, the food will come to you. Again, let me tell you, food is not only the food. I have been using this simply because we have talked about food in the much broader sense in the previous sections. So I don't want to keep on saying it. It's easy to just use only this and then do it. If you do the best things of that in the best way, the best things will come back to you. It's what it says. Yetadvai madhyaton, if you do it with a little calculative, you are trying to be a little bit grudgingly do it. You do it with a little bit of feeling, I have to give, so let me give, and that kind of a thing. It says it will also come back to you like that. In the larger scheme of things, the benefits that come back will always come back to you like that. So that's the second part it says. Then it says, Etadva antato nagam, in a very inferior way. With a lot of body language that you don't really feel like giving. It's something which you have gotten into, unfortunately. And if you share food in the larger sense of the term, the effect comes back to you, the benefits come back to you in the same way. So that's what it says. Understand the spirit of what. Evam Veda. A person who understands this larger principle of this mutual dependence, this social sustainability, the importance of food and safety net, and this reverence with which we understand all that, he will be benefited and endowed with all those that can come out of it. All that we discussed earlier, it's all connected to that kind of a thing. The same thing Bhagavad Gita talks about. In Bhagavad Gita, when it talks about Dhanam, it says, the last two chapters, plenty of discussion on this. It says, Datavyam iti yad Dhanam. This situation demands this response. Therefore, I am doing is a very high quality of work. Not by saying what is in it for me. Not being too calculative, what I will get out of it. Datavyam iti yad diyate tad dhanam satvikam. This situation demands a certain response. Am I in a position to spontaneously respond to that? I have seen great inspirational leaders are of this variety. In my inspirational leadership lectures, I talk in great detail about the spontaneity of responding to a situation is a high order. So that is that mukaton nagam radham. The equivalent is the three. Since we have already seen it earlier, I thought I'll just connect it. He says, Deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam. You should give it to the right character. Now, I've been saying safety net and all that. We have to be very careful in giving. We'll create a whole country of, lazy fellows. So, they have talked about all that in many different ways. This dhanam is very comprehensively argued. If you remember, I showed a very big framework at that time. Very comprehensively argued on how to give in our system. It's not just, we should give. Never. They have understood that if you do it, you will create a bunch of lazy beggars who will do nothing. It's been thought about. That's why it says, Deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam. Whereas on the other hand, if you say, Yat tu pratyupakara, what is in it for me? If I put this, what will I get back? If you want to transactional living, life, leaders can be inspirational, leaders can be transactional. Transactional leaders are plenty. It's all, what is in it for me? How do I mean, my favorite joke is, they donate one tube lamp for the temple. They will paint who donated and 50% light is gone. It will absorb all that. You donate a mirror and then write who donated a mirror. Half the mirror is gone. That is the second variety. Madhyaton nagum radam. Madhyatosma annagum radyate. That's what Sruti is saying. Sruti has a characteristic way of saying. Whereas Bhagavad Gita tells it much better. It is in a little more direct way. So he says, palam uddishyava, what will I get out of it? So those kinds of things is the second variety, which is a madhyaton nagum radam. Then the third is thoughtless way of doing things. Absolutely not using brains. Adeshe kale yaddanam apatrebhyascha. It's the incompetent person being given in the most inappropriate way, just throwing food like that or throwing money like that. Whatever variety of examples are there, he says that's a very low level. Tamasic. The same, this Rajasic, Sattvic, Tamasic is told in a different way in this shloka by saying Mukaton nagam radam, Madhyaton nagam radam and Antaton nagam radam. He says, how do you treat? There's a whole lot of gamut of possibilities of how do you treat people and so on. So all these are talked about. Then it moved into the next idea. The next idea is God is not to be seen elsewhere. And this Vedic literature is 5,000 years old, so there is a certain way it actually handles. It says, in fact, I find very interesting observations here. This is a society in which it is impossible to say this is better and this is not better. This fellow is better, this fellow is not. I mean, there's a lot of Manuvadi and all that thing that are going on now. These are all in between. If you move 1,000 years before and then see the literature, these are all literature of that kind. If you move in many places when you read, it's absolutely blind, neutral in what it is talking. Now, one extreme case is what you will see here. I will show you. It says in creation nothing can be better than other. That is the perspective. In creation, nothing can be better than the other. In Vyavahara, things can be different. In my office, there can be a class 4 employee who will be doing janitorial work. I can have a CFO who will take care of the finance. I can have a director also. But if you think that is the way I have to discount this individual who is sweeping and think that this individual is great, that are all happened in between. Our original thinking is, for Vyavahara, I do whatever you want to do. But then, creation cannot be. There is, in fact, two powerful messages I see in ancient Indian wisdom is, there is nothing like evil. We don't have a concept of Satan at all. Semitic religions have. In India, there is nothing, in India meaning in our, this thing, there is nothing like, hell and all that. It is a continuum. A bad person is also divine. Because it's all divinity. A criminal must be divine. An evil must be divine. A good must be divine. That is a position that we have taken. That's why 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in fact I argue that the number of shlokas which are showing fiery things of creation is more than the number of shlokas which shows good things. You just go and count and see. The number of scary things showed in that Vishwarupa Darshan is more than the number of nice things being showed, just to remind us it's all divinity only. So there is no degradation. So in the next passage, It takes organs in our body and says, go and then see divinity in the organs. Organs include anus, the organs include all kinds of things. You can't create a literature like that with that sense of, you can say, oh, this is not something which we have to talk about, it is some dirty things are happening, I mean, it's unavoidably we need it. It was never like that. It takes everything and puts it on the same platform. You can't create a literature like that if you don't have that thinking. And I have seen plenty of references like that. So therefore, that is a spirit. We'll see what it says next. He says, you don't have to contemplate God elsewhere. I'll show you how to contemplate God in your body. It takes you to that level now. Kshema iti vachi, yoga kshema iti prana panayoh, karmeti hastayoh, gatiriti padayoh, vimuktiriti payo, that is the excretory organ. Paya is the excretory organ. Okay? Iti manushi samajna. In your body, you can see divinity in everything. And it takes all kinds of examples. You say you can see divinity anywhere. First it says, Kshema iti vachi. Okay? See, there is a word yoga and Kshema. It's a beautiful Bhagavad Gita shloka. Ananya chintayanto mam ye janam varyupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yoga kshemam mahamyaham. He says, I will take care of your yoga and kshema. If you do this, I will do that. Krishna thumbs the desk and says, yoga kshemam mahamyaham, which is LIC's logo. Yoga kshemam mahamyaham is LIC's logo actually. Okay? So there is something called yoga and...
They will charge for that.
Yes, maybe. So yoga and kshema are two words. The meaning of that, there are many meanings, but the meaning which is very useful here is, yoga means apraptasya praptam. It's called yoga. That you are not able to get, getting that is called yoga. Kshema means praptasya poshana. What I have, I should preserve, no? What I don't have, I should get, and what I get, I should be able to preserve. So it's called yoga and kshema. Okay? So it says, Kshema iti vachi. He says, huh?
Scalability sustainable.
Maybe if you want to take it like that, that's okay. So first it says, Kshema iti vachi. Your speech, your organ of speech, vachi is the organ of speech. He says your organ of speech can be contemplated as the divine expression of your ability to preserve what you have. You know why? Because with speech anything can happen. There is a nice shloka again for that. Look at this shloka. It's a beautiful shloka. It says, Lakshmi vasati jikhvagre. In the tip of your tongue resides the Lakshmi. Okay? Then it says, jikhvagre mitra bandavaha. It all depends on how you talk. That's what it is saying. Jikhvagre mitra bandavaha. Your friends and relatives actually are in the tip of your tongue. If your tongue is very sharp, they will go away. That is the intended meaning here. Jikhvagre bandhanam praptam. Your connections are obtained by the tongue. Okay? Jikhvagre maranam dhruvam. You can destroy yourself with your tongue. That's what this shloka is saying. What is it saying? It's a nice shloka. This I was not able to get the reference. I was trying to find out. When I get, I will let you know. This Subhashita.
Maybe Bhartrugari.
No, Subhashita, Bhartrugari it is not there. I know that. I know all the three Shatakas. Niti Shataka, Shringara Shataka and Vairagya Shataka, it is not there. I don't know where it is there from Subhashita. There are tons and tons of shlokas like Subhashita Bandakar, it is there. Okay. But it may be from somewhere. It could be even in Panchatantra or somewhere. So Panchatantra has beautiful shlokas like this. So what is he saying is the tip of your tongue is the greatest possibility of maintaining you one way or the other. If you have the nice ways of articulating, you have a certain ways of dealing with people, then Mitra Bandhavaha, Lakshmi and Bandhanam are all with you. Right? If you use your tongue in the way, in the more inappropriate way, Jikhvagre Maranam Dhruvam. It is for sure. But that is a lower understanding of that mantra. That mantra is very deep. You know what it says? If you contemplate that this organ of speech is an expression of divinity, it will make sure that Jikhvagre Maranam Dhruvam is ruled out first. It will happen. If you get something from a person who is most revered, you vouchsafe it. That's the first thing you do. Somebody you like the most, it could be your guru, your boss, or your friend, or your mother, or something. You think this is very important. The first thing what we will do, we will protect it properly. We will use it properly. So it says, if you contemplate Brahman in your organ of speech, the first thing that will happen is the organ of speech will be moderate, will become finer. It's a deeper idea. The organ of speech can become finer. How can you misuse something which you revere here? If you misuse something which you revere, there is something wrong with you. Go back and then go back to the drawing board and ask what is going on here. So that is the second interpretation. Third interpretation is the speech is not given by some R&D company. They put something and charge you for 8 hours, you started speaking. Never think like that. It's God here. Every indriya is God. Please understand. And my ability to see is God. My ability to think is God. My ability to speak is God. So it is God. Expression of God is what is emanating out of an individual. So this whole shloka is actually telling you that you are nothing but God is radiating out of you. That's why in Bhagavad Gita he says, Tejas Tejasvinam Aham. That's what he says. Balam Balavatam Asmi. Buddhir Buddhimatam Aham. All that. Where did all these come from? Who wired all that? It's not a charging station where I went and charged and I became brilliant. It's not I went to a charging station, my ears started working, and when I don't want it to switch off, unfortunately you can't. Each is an indriya, is a deva. It is divinity which is coming and sitting, and for people who are blind, that deva is not there. For a person who is deaf, that expression of divinity is not there. It's simple. So unless we understand this concept, we will never appreciate creation. So this whole shloka is actually in a way sense says that you don't see God in a photograph, don't see God in those fancy Vittalacharya movies where something happens. They are all suggestive. See God in you. If you can see, you are actually God, because God is radiating through the eye. So that is what Kshema iti vachi. Yoga Kshema iti prana apana yoga. When will you stop breathing? When will you start breathing? Medicine will say at the 5th week the heart starts lub-dub. What is this lub-dub here? God walked into you. God got into this fetus and said, let me start now. And one day the God said, let me go. You do whatever you want. You go to the costliest hospital in the world, spend all your fortune, and the time is over. Go. There's again a beautiful story. A lot of Indian stories are wonderful. There was an yajna happening. And there is an eagle sitting. There is a squirrel or something sitting by the side. Yamadharma Raja is coming. Before he goes into the yajna, he looks at that squirrel. Intensely looks at the squirrel and then goes in. So this eagle was looking at the whole thing. The eagle said, why is this fellow looking at you? I think he has come to take you off. That's what it is. So if you don't mind, sit at my back. I will fly you to a very far off place. So the squirrel thought it was not a bad idea. Even if there is a little one iota of truth in it, better I do it. Because we all cherish our life now. So he said, all right. Got behind the eagle. Eagle flew away to a very far off place, left it inside a cave, and then came back and sat here. After that, this Yama came out. He was looking for the squirrel. Squirrel was not there. So the eagle was very happy now. He looked at Yama and said, what are you looking at? You are looking for the squirrel? Yes. No, why are you looking for the squirrel? Then Yama said, this squirrel's end is to happen in a far off place in a cave. I was wondering how will it go there. See, it may look like a jovial story. Understand the spirit here. God decides when the prana and apana will stop. Prana is inhaling, apana is exhaling. That is an expression of divinity, and that is the one which sustains and preserves you. That's why yoga and kshema, whenever you think of yoga and kshema, think of this vitality of inhaling and exhaling and see God there. That's what it is saying. Everything is expression of divinity. So this eagle thought it is a savior, it was the Yamaduta. That's the charm of these stories. It makes you reflect. I mean, don't worry whether the story is true or not. It is telling a very important message. The message is when the breath will stop coming out is a decision made by the divinity, not by your doctors, not by medical research. I mean, we can keep doing it, but then finally it is decided elsewhere. Arunima Sinha, I don't know how many of you are aware of her. It's an 18-minute video, you must see it. Stunning video. You would have read about her. She was thrown out of a running train. She is an athlete. In Kanpur, near Kanpur, Raebareli, she was thrown out of a running train. Why? Because they stole her. She was thrown. She fell down. Night. 12 trains passed over her leg. After that, she said hundreds of rats were eating. I was shouting and shouting and shouting. Nobody came. Morning, when villagers heard some noise, they came. My blood is being eaten. She talks all that in 80 minutes. She makes, and she is the only woman with 2 legs amputated, scaled all the highest peaks in the world, including Everest. So she talks about scaling Everest in that 18-minute video. I mean, when you have significant life experiences that spark, you become a philosopher. You don't have to read all these. Every sentence is loaded. You know what she said? She said when she went near Everest, her oxygen was out. So Sherpa said, come back. She said, no, please take a video. He said, are you pagal hai aap? You will not even return? She said, no, please take the video. All that is she explains. And she came back. At that time she makes one statement. She says, all my base camp 4, people said Arunima will never come back. I also thought like that. When we have our own list, God has its own list. She uses a sentence like that. Every sentence is like that she speaks. When you have your own list, God has own list. That is called, Kshema, Yoga Kshema iti prana panayoho. These are all heavily loaded sentences. I think we'll stop here. It is already 7:1. We'll stop here. We will continue this. So the spirit of this is saying divinity is not elsewhere. You breathe divinity in and out. If you don't see it, you will never see divinity in your life. That's what it is getting at. We will continue seeing it in the next class. Thank you.
Sir, I think it has been even cited in Ramayana also, where Mahadev says, Hari Vyapak Sarvatra Samana, Prem ke japo avat mein jana.
Full. You read any literature, this is being told in many different ways. Many different ways. That is the spirit which, if we are not able to get into the spirit, God will become a conceptual idea. It's a waste of time. God being a conceptual idea is utter waste of time. Divinity as a conceptual idea is a waste of time. Yeah, there is some prasad here. He has gone to Rishikesh. Some good prasad is there. Please partake the prasad. Whoever has not taken.
What you were there on Shivratri? No, last week. Maybe it's on YouTube. So next week I might not be here.
Lady Arunima
Sinha. See that video.
I want to show some sensational thing to my orphanage.